Well, I've been continuing to think about this tragedy in France with the helicopter crashing, and all of these lives, suddenly changed. And there's so many Dharma lessons to be gleaned from this story, and in the last 24 hours there have been more stories in the news that can really build our compassion. So I think the story in France just points to the fragility of human life and how we're under the control of causes and conditions that we don't even know about, and that all of these things are just waiting to ripen, given what we do in our life. And I think this also elicits a response to the pain and the grief that these people, the survivors, are experiencing as they go through the days of dealing with this loss. So what was occurring to me again and again is that 30 minutes before this crash, a week ago Friday, the Ko family, the Chinese family, they were intact. They're in France celebrating the purchase of this incredible vineyard and just property. Then the other family who sold the property, the Gregoires, they were intact, and they were probably planning how they would utilize all these millions of dollars to, what's the next step in their life? Maybe they'll retire. Where will they go? What they'll do with their children, their grandchildren? All these, enormous things of planning going on in both families. So, according to an eyewitness who saw the helicopter above the river before it crashed, this fellow was out duck hunting, and he was familiar with the helicopter because he lives in the area, and he knew it was the Gregoire helicopter, and he just thought to himself, "Wow, they're really flying very low above the river. What's going on there?" But he didn't really think much about it. And I guess he turned his head to do something, and then he heard this incredible deafening crash. And when he looked over on the river, there was all this foam, and he saw these two men struggling in the water. But all the authorities who have gone to investigate have said there's no chance these fellows would have survived because the water was in full winter flow. And then 30 minutes before the crash, there are these two wives, these two women. 1 minute they're a wife, and in this case a wife and a mother because the 12-year-old boy died in the crash. And then minutes later, they go from wife to widow. And how that can happen in a heartbeat. So I think when we encounter tragedies like this, like we do every day when we read the newspaper, we can just really see that this is what happens in cyclic existence. This is it. If it isn't a sudden accident or a tragedy like this, it's an illness. Or, something else happens and we're harmed in some way, but this is cyclic existence. Cyclic existence is not a place. It's a situation. And this is the situation that we're all in. And as I encountered the news again yesterday, in the last 24 hours, shockingly, there have been 2 explosions in Russia, in this city by the name of Volgograd. And these are both suicide bombings. So in the first blast that occurred yesterday, 16 people, including the female suicide bomber, were killed. Today, there was a second blast on a trolley bus in the same city. 14 people were killed and at least 28 people injured. In the first blast, 40 are injured, and some are very gravely injured in both cases. So they don't anticipate these people to live. And so again, so we knew that a little bit of detail with the families in France. In this incident, there's 30 individuals who are dead now. 30 families immediately torn apart. And so I think immediately we can sort of go into despair and this mind of, we can become very unstable in our approach to this. And as Venerable Children constantly reminds us, this is just something that we need to work with and to cultivate, not fear, but wisdom fear. And wisdom fear is more balanced. It's not just getting hysterical and thinking it's hopeless. This is all we have to look forward to. There's nothing to be done. When in fact, if we are practitioners of any faith, and in this case, the Buddhist practice, we have many tools at our fingertips. And as I'm getting ready for the review this coming Thursday, this kind of conclusion about wisdom fear really fits in with what I'll talk more about on Thursday night. And so this is right from Aryadeva, verse 1 53, and he's talking about the appropriateness of wisdom fear. And he says, being under others' control, who would be fearless? We don't have the power to choose our own rebirth. We are under afflictions. We are dependent on other factors. They all trace back to ignorance. Under the control of afflictions and karma, what intelligent person would feel fearless? Like a piece of wood swept by the current, we are thinking, here is me, I'm in charge, I'm going to make things happen. When in fact, we can't prevent our body from aging or from falling ill. We can't prevent our body from dying. We can't prevent ourselves from getting into uncomfortable situations constantly. We can't control our mind. So it's very foolish to think that I'm in control of things and that I can choose what happens to me, when in fact our minds are so much out of control and karma influences what happens. And then Venerable Chodron points out this combination of things that we currently have in this precious human rebirth that we have. And she says we have these three things which should not be ever taken for granted. And it's the conjunction of a listener, someone with a precious human rebirth, what is to be heard, the teachings of the Buddha, specifically teachings on emptiness, and a teacher, that's the Buddha. And she said having these three things is so rare, we have no idea how rare this is. And so this next sentence really gets me right in my gut. And I have to admit, wisdom fear doesn't really rise up right now. A little bit of regular fear rises up, but I'm working on the wisdom part. Samsara has an end for people who experience these three things coming together. The causes and conditions for stopping are assembled. But if we don't take advantage of these things, what really scares me is then samsara has no end. There will be no end to this cycle of birth, aging, sickness, and death. And on it goes. So as Venerable Chodron advises us, we have to make effort to hear the teachings while the opportunity is here and really see the rareness of this opportunity. And this is Ayadeva, which is the closing sentence that I'll finish with. Not striving for liberation is like crowning an idiot to be king. So let's keep all these people in mind who have perished this week in accidents and tragedies, and really determine ourselves to take advantage of this incredible situation that we have for the benefit of all.